Hello everyone, welcome back to another one of our exciting little live streams. Today we are sitting here in central China. We're going to get to visit one of the interesting sights of China. This is actually one of the places that was the inspiration for the Avatar kind of scenery with the big tall sandstone mountains with the little trees on top. Unfortunately for us, the good folks over at Microsoft didn't have quite the detail level to master exactly what that's going to look like. But hey, we're going to make do with what we got today. Now, we are on VATSIM at the moment, and I was just taking a look really quickly and trying to analyze what we're going to be doing as far as airspace violations and all that other stuff. And one of the things I did discover as I was kind of studying it was the fact that we are going to be going way into the sector control of an airport near us. Now, normally I'm like, oh, this won't be a problem. But unfortunately, I've never flown with Chinese air traffic control before. So rather than trying to find that one out the hard way, what we're going to do instead is once we do get into its controlled zone, we're basically going to kind of hide from it. So I'm not going to worry about that too much today. Like I said, we'll go ahead and do that in a second. I like this thing. It's sounding pretty grumpy at me, but that's perfectly fine. There it goes. Nice. Gotta love this TBM. The reason we picked the TBM today is because it's going to be able to get us there in a reasonable amount of time. If we chose some of the other options for this, it would be a little bit slower. And like I said, unfortunately, I will be ducking off of VATSIM because we're going to be flying right into the middle of their air traffic control zone. And I'd rather not find out the hard way as far as what that's going to be like. Let me go ahead and pop that. I really wish this suit wouldn't ding at you when you're in that situation. It just kind of does. Now, we're fresh off the SIM update number 6. And the SIM Update 6, unfortunately for us, has been a heck of an experience as far as trying to get through some of the bugs that it creates here. And because of the some of the bugs, hopefully we don't run into too much of that during our flight today. And again, I'll make some comments on that as we're kind of cruising around. So the first thing I'm going to do is, like I said, unfortunately, we're going to be flying smack dab into the middle of their controlled zone, and I don't want to find out the hard way that it violated half of their airspaces, so I hate to say it, I'm actually going to be bailing on VATSIM today. I did get it all set up, it did program everything, but unfortunately they've got an event going on, which is kind of deny me the ability to be sneaking the sucker on, so aw. Sorry about that. I know one of our individuals was excited to be able to do that. Unfortunately, I didn't pick something that's far enough to the west in order to stay away from it. We'll have to revisit that in a different part of the world later on. So anyway, let's go ahead and get everything going here. We got everything all kind of programmed, pre-planned, all that other good stuff. Cruise altitude today, we're going to do an initial altitude of about 13,000. One thing you do want to watch out is during this initial climb out, there are some tremendously tall mountains in this region. We're not talking Himalayas or anything along those lines, but we are talking things that are significantly tall, so we want to make sure we get that kind of out of the way pretty much right away. So I'm going to go ahead and set my flight director. My navigation's going to be preset. I've got my inertial separator set. My fuel is all good. I've got I love this little old school 4-point harness. Like, oh, how nice is that? These two buttons are set, and we're pretty much ready to rock. So I'm going to go ahead and kill the power can brake here, and we'll go ahead and kind of wall forward. Now, one of the things I like about this particular plane is with everything is it's just fast enough to be able to travel 150 miles in less than an hour, but it's just slow enough that when we want to go take a look at some of the scenery on the way down today, we can go ahead and check that out. So I'm just going to come sneak up on the runway here. Again, we're playing with all players. We're in the East USA server for those of you who like to join us. Yes, we're in the middle of China, but there's nothing wrong with being on that server. It's less likely to have hundreds and hundreds of little airplanes sneaking around here. I see TTC 70. That's Antonio, I believe. Good to see you again. Sneaking up behind me. We've got a bunch of type today, so I'm just going to take a quick look back and forth, and we'll go ahead and sneak onto the runway here. I'm going to be doing a midfield takeoff because we have plenty of room to do this. I'm going to go ahead and pop down here, go snap this thing into the takeoff position, and I'm going to scale the pants out of whoever's down there at the end of the runway. Gotta love this one. Swing over the corner, couple taps of the brakes. We're going to flip on the landing lights. Couple taps, and let's scare the pants off Antonio down here at the end here. One thing I do like about this plane, the more recent update, is they made it so when the inertial separator is running, you can't actually over-torque anything or over-ITT anything, which is kind of nice. I sort of want to leave it on so I can just jam the throttle forward if I want to go fast. It makes things a lot more convenient for me, at least in my mind. Start ripping. We're looking for about 80 knots. That's going to be our V1 speed. Pull that nose up gently off the ground. Hold about 6. And we're going to go gently slap the flaps up. Picking up a little bit of speed here. It's going to take just a moment to get this thing going. Go ahead and clear those last couple of trees at the end of the runway. Flaps up. And immediately absorb how beautiful the terrain is in this part of the world. Whoop, I just got passed. Nice. Go ahead and start swinging myself over to the left here. And we'll start on our procedure. Like, this is an amazing region of the world. And when we fly, you'll see that people basically try to find any place they possibly could to go ahead and stick some kind of farm or something along those lines. Notice already this plane is trying to kill me. Nothing new. All right, looks pretty good. I don't see any clouds, so I'm going to go ahead and flip off the inertial separator. We don't need it. When you do that, by the way, be quick to grab your throttle because you're going to suddenly get a spike of torque because, again, depending on which mode it was sitting on, you could have some issues with that. And 100% to max. Reach above our heads. We'll go ahead and tap off this light. And we are now on our way once again. So our initial altitude is going to be about 13,000 feet. It's going to help get us clear of all of this, like I said, absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous terrain here. Again, I love flying in places like this. I guess I have an obsession with mountains. You'll have to deal with that. Oh, well. But it's really, really cool because it's just, it's different. It almost reminds me of Vietnam, to be honest. You know, usually when people think of China, they think of kind of the plains, or they think about kind of when you go out towards the coast, you get your Shanghais and things like that. Most folks don't think about things such as, you know, when you're flying on this side of items, when you have like these lush jungles and these kind of not so populous zones. You know, when you think about those idyllic pictures of where everybody's growing their tea, you're looking literally where this is, by the way. Very, very terrifying looking bridge over there. I just spotted it out of the corner of my eye. I wonder if I can get a better look at that. Well, I'm here, right? Might as well play tourist. There's nothing wrong with that. Nice. Cool, I love that. All right, let's make our way up, and then we're going to go dive and go take a peek at some of the things. Let's see how we're doing as far as these kind of things. I've got a bunch of different questions here. Let's see, Ted, TBM, flashback. It's got to be a flashback. Disconnect from VATSIM. Steph, somebody just said hello. Hello, Steph. I don't know who you are, but I know who you are. I can't admit to. Renee is asking if we have an IFR flight plan. We have none. We're basically going to be flying directly to the east. We're going to go visit some really, really cool pillars, and then we're going to swing up to the west directly, actually the north. One of the things that sort of surprised me is the airport I really, really wanted to use for this flight today is not in Flight Simulator, even though all the procedures and approaches and VORs and everything is already in place. It's just kind of one of those things. It's like, why did they not think of these kind of things like this? It's just a little strange. So we're, like I said, we did post this on YouTube a little bit earlier. You can actually download the flight plan directly if you have a little nav map handy. That's a great way to do it if you need it. If you want to just follow us, that's perfectly fine too. Like I said, I'll try to keep the engine within limits for the whole flight here. All right, let's see who's visiting us today. We have a gentleman who's flying beautiful formation. Good to see you, Simon. Simon was indicating that there was something wrong with his TBM, which is why he's operating the King Air. I thought about the King Air, and for those of you who know back far enough, the King Air is what we flew last time we were here in China, so I think that's kind of funny. Welcome back, Fast Ted. Welcome back, Antonio. Loaded Arm. Welcome back, Sillybo. Welcome back, Tucson Joe. Wickety Smash. Welcome back. I can't make out who that is. Welcome back to you. Gilly Ninja 72. Welcome. I'm trying to see someone with the mash. I can't quite make it out right now, so I'm just going to have to use my thing. We have Wickety Smash. Welcome back. Absolutely. Now we're just going to, like I said, pop up. We'll come down and do some sightseeing once we get a little bit closer. The reason, again, is why I'm going up so high, so I can take advantage of the slightly thinner air. But one of the things that fascinates me about this part of the world is if you look at this, it literally looks like it's an ocean, but it's made out of green. Like, it's just like, almost like there was a giant asteroid and it caused like a shockwave of ripples, and then everything just froze in the shape of those ripples. Folks who have, of course, I'm going to date myself a little bit here, but I remember back in the game Star Siege Tribes back in 1998, they had a lot of maps that looked like this, and what you would do is you take off, you just go down this ramp, you speed up a bunch, you jump off, then you go down this one, and you basically ski your way to the enemy base. And when I look at this terrain, I just can't help but remember that game. Of course, we have something a little bit faster than what we had in Star Siege, so I'll take that as well. So what we're traveling to today, I've been practicing the pronunciation of this one for a while. I'm not going to get it right. We're going to Wulingyuan, which is basically this location. It's a World Heritage Park, a UNESCO Heritage Site, rather. And what it has there, which is super duper unique, is these gigantic, gigantic, gigantic pillars. Let me go ahead and grab a picture of this real quick so I can share this with you folks. Basically, this is the Wikipedia page, so I can't show you this one. But the stone itself looks like this. Folks who have actually been on seen the movie Avatar immediately recognize this. You got these crazy tall pillars, and you got pretty much all this different terrain that will basically come sticking directly on top of it. And I thought it'd be kind of wild to check it out. I mean, look at this. Could you imagine like getting like a bridge between these two suckers? And what we're going to be doing is actually coming from this direction, swinging over the top of it, and then we're going to be coming back up towards the north. Now, like I was saying a little bit earlier in a live stream today, it does not look this good in Flight Sim, but it does look pretty cool, and that's exactly why we're going to continue flying up to it today. So I'll go ahead and put that one away. We're just about hitting our cruise altitude right here. Again, I love the TBM for flights like this because I know I can travel 150 miles, take a look at something, and then fly another 75 miles and do the entire thing in less than an hour. All right, let's see who else we have if I missed anybody here. Drop of vino. Drop of vino, like a wine drop. Oh, I like that. I like that. And of course, Reaper MD, welcome back. All right, so we're making our way through this. I got a huge valley here, and like again, you can see how we went from pretty much all nothing but trees. Once you get these flat spots, people just literally like, oh, that looks like a good spot for a farm. Oh, that looks like a good spot for a farm. So they just are basically all across the top of this, and then you're going to see this huge valley, which is what we're going to be sneaking up on in just a moment here. And then all of a sudden, you're going to go right back into the mountains on the opposite side, and again, you're going to get these weird little ripples. Like, I don't know. For me, this is one of the reasons I love flying is you get to see stuff like this. You know, when you look at it on an atlas, you never actually get to experience the way that looks directly, so it's too bad. All right, we're just kind of proceeding. Cool and behind. Looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. I think I have a fan hunting me down here. Oh, Laugh-O-Rog. Sorry, I missed you a little earlier there. I'm going to go double check to make sure everything's good on this side of things. Yeah, we could probably get a couple extra RPM out of it without too much difficulty, and that looks pretty good to me. So like I said, it's going to take us about 15 minutes, give or take, to get to our first site. We'll actually, once we get to that point, we'll descend down, we'll take a look at these cool little pillars. Again, they're not going to be nearly as pretty in this as they are in the real world, but again, it's just a neat thing. Then we'll fly up north, and you have this really, really neat valley where the actual airport that we're going to be landing on is. And like I was saying earlier, we are skipping out on VATSIM on this one. I've never talked to a Chinese controller before. I know they have to speak English because it's international. I'm terrified. Not gonna lie, it was scary enough last time when we were in France and we were experiencing the French as well as the Spanish controllers, which I did manage to get to my destination and only broke 90% of the rules that you had to do so. So that was a super bit of fun when we did that one as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and take a look. Everything looks solid. Everything looks solid. Love this. So a couple quick little things that I found very interesting is we have the new sim update number 6. When I went to do videos for next week, I had to redo all my videos almost 4 or 5 times. So you might be a little disappointed with the quality because of how broken things were. Like I said, I'm glad I'm not flying any ILS approaches today because it is so borked right now. It's unbelievable. It's just I cannot believe how much they've broken flights in today. But the good news is, of course, we are able to fly the TBM and we'll be able to get there in a pretty successful thing. I really wanted to build an airplane, but the idea never really took off. Oh, we're doing airplane punts today, as what Aniru said. Nice. Okay. I always like the helicopter punts the best, but I did that back when we were in Hawaii when we found out that you can't do the helicopter multiplayer. Sigh. Speaking of things, I don't know if anybody's been following the news on Microsoft, but they're going to be releasing a brand new racing DLC. Now, I'm not a big racing airplane kind of a person. I don't think I have what it takes for it, but it's just super exciting that we're going to be seeing things like, P-51s coming back over to Flight Sim. We're also going to be getting extremely high performance single engine planes. So, I mean, this thing moves pretty quick, but it will not do 550 miles an hour like some of those aircraft will. The other thing we're going to be getting too is we're going to be getting that big update. I think it's the anniversary update is what they were calling that one. And that's going to be giving us the F-18, which, oh man, everybody's going to have to get some practice in because I cannot wait to do a virtual mission over Iran or Iraq back in the 90s or something like that with a whole squadron of F-18s basically chilling 6 feet off the desert floor, kind of tearing things up. So I'm definitely looking forward to when that finally comes out. Also in the news, as you have been following along with some of the other aircraft development notices, we're getting our first helicopters from Microsoft. It's not really a helicopter, it's like a drone that people fly in, but again, what is a drone these days? I have no idea. Somebody just said BTW, so I'll wait to see what we have to say here. That's going to be interesting. We'll take a peek behind us, see how we're doing. Perfect. Like I said, this is the relaxing part of flying. I've not flown in the real world, by the way, since September, because the weather was really bad. The weather suddenly got better, and then somebody broke the door off the plane. That's what happens. Of course, trying to get a door in from a specific type of plane that's from the 1960s can be a little involved. Let's see here. Yep. So I'm just responding. Somebody's mentioning that they're one of my students. Hi. I'm just going to say hi. Make sure you study for your test on Wednesday. Oh, Antonio's just announcing the fact that he's going to be doing his first ultralight flight. That is amazing. Well, the great thing about ultralights is the fact that as long as there's no wind, you'll have a very fun experience. And I've done a little bit of work in ultralights. Ultralights, of course, are terrifying because when you looked at them, you're like, I'm supposed to fly in that? And then somebody gets in next to you and you're like, okay, then. And also the nice thing about ultralights, of course, too, is they don't take much room to land or take off. If you have an engine out on an ultralight, you can park it like in a regular-sized parking space, even if you're in Italy and you need to parallel park it. It's no problem at all. But that's it's an interesting experience, to say the least. All right, so we're looking at about, taking a look over here, we got about 10 nautical hour, 10 minutes or so before we're going to be coming down. Basically, what's going to happen is this big concentration of population is going to start drifting off, and then we're going to be coming down into this little valley, which is going to be located right down in here, which I will see in just a few minutes. Like I said, when we get to that point, we'll go ahead and start a little dive, and we'll come down nice and smooth. Great. Oh, this is so crazy. Oh, man, I love this. Let's take a peek at the folks behind us real quick. Again, I was hoping to do this in the Diamond, but I couldn't find a runway close enough that we could actually use, so we're stuck in turboprops again today. Love it, absolutely love it. Now, one of the things that shocked me too about airplanes, and this is coming from the real world again, is the first time I stood next to a Bonanza. The interesting thing, that's the Beechcraft, the G36. They have one of them at my nearby airport. I had no idea how big the plane was. Like, when you get inside these planes, inside the simulator, and you're just kind of cruising along and everything's perfectly fine, you're like, oh, it's a good-sized plane. But this thing's tall, like, really tall. And, like, a Bonanza's really big. Like, it's just like, you don't realize that it's a totally different category of plane if you've been flying 172s. Let's see, Rick is saying, remember how to do that. It's been 25 years. Rick, I hate to say it, but I have an ILS video for next week, and it's all dedicated to tips on it. And Microsoft literally just kept kicking me over and over and over in the stomach, basically trying to get the plane to behave properly. But I'm glad to hear that you had it. Oh, I know. I know. I think I've been hunted by one of my students. One of the fun things about having a public personality versus a private personality is sometimes these things overlap, and I can't acknowledge them on account of the fact they cannot overlap. And that's one of the reasons why I might have to disable the chat, but we'll see exactly what happens there. All right. One thing I would like to check actually while I'm up here, I'm going to go see something real fast. To do MFT mode, zoom out just a teeny tiny bit. Okay, that's exactly what I expected. So if you want to see something kind of weird, there's actually an airport in the real world that's right here in this valley here, and I would love to have been able to take off from it and gone like the 6 minutes it takes to get here. But like I said, these are the two closest airports. I had to go check out both of them at the same time. So it's just kind of interesting how that sort of plays out. Just seeing right here, we should be coming down. Yep, again, look at this terrain. It's literally like this. I just find that, I don't know, I find that super duper duper interesting. Okay. One thing, if anybody has a second, my friend Ian would say, he's like, you have any available bandwidth? Can anybody double check when the DLC is supposed to be coming out for Microsoft so I can do a quick announcement to everybody so they can kind of see how that goes? That's interesting. I know somebody who, one of the fun things in X-Plane is you can define things really quickly as saved views. One of my favorite views is pressing the 9 key, and it always brings me to this view. It's super fun when you're doing this, when you're doing like an ILS approach or something like that, and you just kind of hang out. You push the little flaps button, little flaps come down and everything like that, and you watch the runway go by. Then you have to suddenly jump into the front seat real fast, and you have to kind of stick the thing down. It's just so fascinating to me, but again, this is why we fly. All right, I'm going to zoom in a little tiny bit here. Like I said, we'll be there in just a few minutes, and then we'll take some look. We'll make some avatar comments, and then we'll kind of come back around. Now, luckily for us, the wind here, the prevailing winds actually come from the other direction in this region, so it actually works out really well for us because we're using high winds. Let's go ahead and show that. Because we're at high-level clouds right now, the wind is basically behind us, which is helping us out, versus having the terrifying winds that you can't get from this one. Reaper asked, how do I pan around like that? That's an excellent question. So I have a button. I'll go ahead and share this with everybody. Sorry, everybody behind me who just passed me. Look at that. But if I actually go over to my throttle, let me search my input. There's actually a button called Translate Cockpit View Forward. If you press that button, you can do things like this. So if I went to, I passed everybody. So I can actually do things like this. I have a button for up and down. I have a button like this. All right. Renee says the Reno races coming 18th of November. Rick says Reno Air Races is 18th of November. Thanks, Renee. Thanks, Rick. That's awesome. But like I was saying, there's a button called Translate. There's actually Translate up and down, Translate left and right. One of the reasons I love it is you can do something really stupid like this. Okay. I don't know why I'd be sitting here on the floor, but if you wanted to play one of these games, you could then save this view if you want to quickly snap yourself back around. The command you're looking for in controls is going to be the Translate button. I'm sorry I haven't mentioned that one before. I actually find this really, really fun because you get bored when you're playing with the autopilot. So, you kind of do one of these and kind of stick out the wind and everything like that. It's super handy. Sorry, everybody who just passed me. Simon, I guess you're a Pathfinder guide now. You do not look like a Lancaster bomber to me, though. You've only got the 2 engines, so I'm a little suspicious. All right, let's go ahead and start sneaking ourselves down. We got about 6 minutes to go. When we hit about 5 minutes, I'll start my descent. The local altitude there is pretty high up, despite the fact that we're a lot closer to this. I'm just going to confirm it real fast. That altitude is going to be, I'm just checking it real quick, 2,400, 3,804 is ground, so we need to come down to, let's call it 4,000 feet. So I'm going to pre-select 4,000 feet now. And we'll start making our way down in just a few moments. One of the things I like about this plane is, unlike a propeller plane, if you go up, you go faster. The propeller planes, once you cross about 7,500 feet, it does not like you nearly as much. So I'm just going to check that out. 5:34. Like I said, about 5 minutes, we'll start making our way down, and we'll go take a look at these avatar kind of inspiration things. All right, Simon's saying he's trying to be a de Havilland Mosquito. Now, which version are you referring to? Because over in DCS, we got one of the FB versions, and I think the folks over in BOS, which is IL2 for those of you who follow that one, we're getting a different version of the Mosquito. There's also a night version of the Mosquito if you really want to get technical, which is awesome. Again, those are great planes. They need to add Halloween decorations to all the homes. Oh, that would be amazing, Niviro. I really like that idea. They actually added Halloween directions to Halloween games, and I'm like, well, that's getting a little extreme, but that's all right. All right, down we go. So I'm going to go ahead and press the flick button, and I'm going to pull the throttle back just a tiny bit. I don't need to pull it back too hard here. It's like, again, I'm just going to knock basically 15% off my NG, and this thing's going to start coming down like a rocket ship. Again, look at this terrain. Why does it do that? That's so fascinating. And just look at that. That is so cool. That's also why we do get the phenomena that we're going to be seeing in just a few moments. Let's see here. What's our distance? We need to be down in 5 minutes. We need to lose 12,000 feet. My mind tells me that that's not going to descend nearly fast enough. So I'm going to bring this up to 250 knots here for our descent speed. There we go. And we are making our way down. Excellent. Now, like I was saying a few minutes ago, check it out. We have our other airport that's literally, look at how close it is. We could have flown like the Piper Cub over here, no problem. But for whatever reason, it's just not present. All right, let's do some mental math here. We're losing 2,700 feet per minute. 12 is going to be 6 minutes. 6 minutes is going to get us 3 minutes, which means we're going to be a little late. That's not that big of a deal, though, because like I said, this is flight sim. We can just pull the throttle all the way back if we have to bring ourselves down in a hurry. Of course, the good folks behind us are probably not going to tolerate that very much. He's got the right idea. See, if I press the pause key now, he would zip by me, or if I hit the accelerate button, I could zip past him. That's one of those fun things in X-Plane is you can change your ground speed in multiplayer. So if you want to go like zoom, 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 like in a Piper, you can just go Alt-T, 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 and you're gone. It's just a fun thing to do to your poor friends over in Flight Sim. We're going to get a little low, so I'm going to go and flip on my landing lights. I'm going to set them over to the pulse mode. It's just kind of being polite here. That's going to make these guys on the wingtips start alternating color there, just to sort of let people know that I'm going to be getting a little low here. Of course, my good friends over in VATSIM Central Command now saw my flight plan filed, missed the time, I connected for a second, disconnected. So they're just going to chalk that one up to an incomplete flight. It doesn't hold against me or anything like that. It's not like I'm holding up traffic because I'm not here. Now check this out. We have like real traffic down here. Interesting. Very interesting. I remember one of the flights we did way, way back in the day when we were in the Congo where the traffic was heavier than it was in New York City. I always thought that was kind of an interesting day. They must have like a big festival going on or something. All right, we're coming down to 4,000 feet. Our destination will be right over the nose. I'll go ahead and call up that picture again for those of you who missed it a little bit earlier. I'm going to spell it wrong for the 500th time, but that's okay. Grab that real fast. Just do the world's quickest little Google search, and you get something that looks like this. This is what it is supposed to look like. We'll see how it actually comes out in a minute. Like I said, I just wanted something a little different for today's flight. We've been doing a lot of stuff, although we were, Helter Skelter, way, way, way out there. One of the things we do have to do at some point relatively soon is I feel like we haven't done a lot of exploration of things like, you know, we've done a little bit of the Nords of Fjorway. We haven't done anything like the Low Countries, you know, like your Belgiums and Netherlands. And even like we've done a little bit of France, but we've barely scratched Germany, and we've never done Russia, which is actually kind of interesting because it's a frequent destination for me because of the navigational challenges involved in flying in a country that large. They also have more ADFs per square mile than I think anybody on Earth does, so that always makes for fun kind of old school navigation. All right, let's check this place out. Zoom in just a tiny bit here. All right, this is one of the great things about Little Nav Map is I can find it on the actual chart itself and actually just kind of highlight it. As a matter of fact, what I'll do real quickly is I'll show this to everyone real fast. You can see that this whole region is basically that zone. It actually has like a different color in it. This is the stamen layer, and you can see I'm about to basically choo-choo right through the center of it in just a minute. So if you don't see the pretty pictures we saw online, don't blame it on me. Don't blame it on me. All right, let's do it to it. move that out of the way, zoom in, and we'll come on down. All right, so that region's going to be basically right ahead of us here. We're going to be flying into it. This is where the pillars actually are. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to kill the automatic pilot. I'm going to get a big angry warning light. And I'm going to smoothly bring ourselves to the right here. And there it is. Everybody's like, aw. I don't blame you, folks. Have you ever flown over any of the navigation arrows in the United States? What do you mean by that, Rick? I'm still doing 240. This is incredible. And here it is. This is where those limestone pillars actually are. This was, like I said, the inspiration to James Cameron's Avatar. And you can actually see some of them. Like, they're kind of poking through a little bit. I just want to go through this one because I'm sure there's some tourist little, like, bridge and stuff that kind of goes across here. And we're just going to be ripping right through the middle of these. You know, this isn't dangerous in the slightest. That is so cool. I'm sorry. Oh, look at this. Like, imagine like hundreds and hundreds of those things just wall to wall down here. And unfortunately, like I said, we don't get to see it. But this whole region is just so fascinating to me. Like I said, we never get to see cool things. I mean, not that where I live doesn't have some really, really neat, iconic sites. One of these days, I think what we'll do is we'll do a practice flight test. And during that practice flight test, I'll fly you around where I always fly around, kind of a thing. So you can experience, you know, some of the weird airports that I have close to where I am. Oh, the airmail navigation arrows. Oh, no, Rick, I have not done that yet. That sounds like a pretty cool thing to try out. Go ahead and bring my power back up here. And yeah, like I said, this is the whole national park. I love how there's a little highway that goes right through the middle of it. Spit. I'm guessing that's a Spitfire, if I had to guess. Drop of Wine has the right idea. All right, we're going to start making our way back this way and kind of flying back out of here. And now we're going to head all the way back up to our ultimate destination here. How much Skrilla is it to rent a Cessna? I'm not sure what that is. I can tell you in the U.S. Whoa! Collision! I can tell you that in the United States, on average, if you're not in a flight club, you're looking at about $150 for 172 an hour. That's kind of the average. If you go down south, it's a little bit cheaper. If you kind of stay up where I am in the Northeast, you're going to be seeing that price or even more, depending on what variant. Now, if you want a nice modern Cessna, like an SP or something, you're probably going to get closer to 160 or even 170. And heaven forbid you want to do something like a Bonanza or a Cirrus. Those things will routinely hit you in the $300-400 an hour range. They're just fantastically expensive. All right, and now we're going to start making our way over to our destination, which is going to be Yaicheng, Sanxia, which is going to be a nice little airport. It's pretty easy. It's in this very, very large valley. It's right at the head of a major river. Take us just a few minutes to get there. Like I said, it's not too far from where we're parking here. So I'm going to go ahead and smoothly bring ourselves back up to 100% power, and I'm going to bring ourselves altitude, fairly reasonable, right about there. Perfect. All right. So one thing I've learned from doing this enough times is the moment you mash the autopilot button, it's going to try to latch onto this. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pre-select my altitude. Like I said, we're going to pop back up to 13. And we can do 12 too. I think it's not going to make that much of a difference. Now I'm going to press the automatic pilot button. 192. Holy smokes. Do 180. It seems pretty comfortable. Yeah. Skrilla. It's not like Skrillex. I'm not going to try to make any assumptions to that effect. All right, going up. Man, I could just imagine flying one of these in the real world. It's like, time to go. You just jam on the throttle and you're completely out of there again. I just think that's the most incredible experience. Oh, no, the terrain here, again, we're getting these weird little bumpy things. And like, I love how if there's 15 feet of flat, somebody puts a farm on it. I love that because you get that out in the American West as well. And you certainly get that, especially in Eastern Europe. Just going to make our way smoothly. It just reminds me of Star Siege Tribes. Every time I look at this, I have the desire to use a jetpack and do one of those things, but that's just me. All right, smoothly push it up to 100. Looks pretty good. We don't need an inertial separator. We're not flying anything too nasty. Now, Nibiru, an interesting thing to think of is ultralights on the flip side are vastly cheaper. You could fly an ultralight airplane. I mean, you could buy an ultralight for 20,000 US, which is nothing. But keep in mind, if you have a total wind of greater than 15 knots, you're probably going to destroy the plane. So it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know that I want to do that because you're never going to get to fly it, at least in my part of the country. Now, this is interesting. Microsoft Flight Simulators decided to delete my flight path, even though it's correctly following it. I don't know how you folks have been doing, but I've been having a nightmare with bugs the last couple of days in Flight Sim since since that last update. Usually they don't get me too bad. Today they've been absolutely wrecking me as far as these things goes. I'm actually afraid of pressing the direct to button because the moment I mangle that, I get the feeling that when I do go direct to, it's going to like delete everything. So let's go ahead and do this safely. Heading mode, heading hold. I like that little twitch of the controls. That was a nice touch. And just to be safe, I'm going to do it over here in the GTN. Said, nope, see how it broke? I told you it'd break. I knew that was coming. Knew it was coming. All right, press the direct to button. We're going to select waypoint. We're going to do Zulu, Hotel, Yankee, Charlie. We're going to press the enter key. That's correct. Activate. That looks good to me. And we're going to go switch it back to nav mode. Fingers crossed. Hey, we're back on this one. Do you need an aviation license for an ultralight, and are they safe? Nibiru, great questions. So first of all, the big thing with an ultralight aircraft is you're, like I was saying just a few moments ago, you're very, very limited on the wind you can be in. This aircraft, you can land in a 30-knot wind. It's going to be sketchy, but you can do it. And an ultralight, a 15-knot wind is probably death. It's just, and the other thing too is where are you flying it? Like I said, in my region, the winds are routinely greater than 10 knots, which means you're only flying it 1 day out of a month, which is kind of annoying. As far as aviation license goes, absolutely you need a license, but there's actually a special kind of license in the United States called a light sport or just a sport license. That license will allow you to operate an ultralight plane only. You can't operate anything like a Cessna 172 or even like a 152 because they're a little bit too heavy. The nice thing about that license is you only need half of the time in order to be allowed to fly those planes. So what some people do is they get that license, they fly around with it for a while, get sick of only being able to go 50 miles away and not at nighttime, and then they transfer up to the private license. In the United States, almost nobody has one of those licenses because they doesn't do this thing. Nibiru, you have a serious challenge with thunderstorms. So you run into things where there's precipitation, lack of visibility, lack of altitude, things like that make it challenging. The other thing, too, with ultralight planes, like I said, they're not very, you can only hold one passenger with them. They tend to be relatively short range. Like, you're not going to travel 800 miles in an ultralight. That'd be crazy. And they tend to be a little bumpy, is kind of the way I do it. You should try the Logitech radio panel. Rick's throwing something in here. I didn't have the issues with only being able to tune the frequency in one direction. Got it, Rick. Got it. I actually have a flight information panel now that I can dial the frequencies in directly. Excellent observation, though, and again, I'm still kind of surprised. The other thing, too, is if I really am worried about radios, I can go switch over the GTN 750. You know, I could do something like that and quickly swap over to it without having to worry about it. It's just easier, but you're absolutely right. Those flight panels are very cool, and I use SPAD Next now, which probably warrants a video because once people see what you can do with SPAD Next, it's actually pretty wild. Like I said, the folks over there have been pretty helpful as far as a lot of that stuff goes. Go ahead and give it a couple extra RPM, and we're back up to 100%. Delightful. And now we get to go. Look at this. Almost reminds me of the fjords. That's so amazing. This little mining camp road. I mean, like, imagine just, like, Definitely. So now another thing that I do, Rick, is I have myself a couple different external controllers too. Like I have a one of the Virpil, it's with the T50. It's the really, really nice throttle. But I also have one of their control panels, so all the buttons in the computer I can just reach over and press buttons for. I don't have to actually go through the process of, like, cranking knobs and simulators. It just tends to be slow. So Nibiru, what I recommend doing is most flight schools offer this basically an intro flight. It's like an hour of flying. I kid you not, you will do most of the flying during that flight. One of the reasons I love these things is you'll know right away whether or not it's for you, because once you get the turbulence, once you get the noise, once you get the when you pull back on the controller for the first time, that's a technical term, by the way. You're going to know exactly whether or not you want to be flying continuing. Oh, hi, Zahan. Let's see. Rick says, didn't expect it to be so huge. Honeycomb flight controls. I need a bigger desk. Yep, I wanted to get the honeycomb myself, but like I said, I'm stuck with the VKB. Although what I did buy recently is I have an actual extension and a mount for it now, so I can actually mount it to the bottom of my desk, so I can like be Mr. Fighter Pilot towards it, which I think is going to be super cool once it comes to it. All right, let's go ahead and plan up for our landing here. I know we have a couple minutes to get there. It looks like 13, but that's not enough time, trust me. So I'm going to go down here. We're going to press the proc button. We're going to go ahead and press approach. We have a couple different options here. We have an ILS for 1.4. We have a VOR. I'm going to pick ILS. CHYC, there's your transition. I'm going to go ahead and load that in. Give it a second. And that's going to give us that nice little setup right here. Wishing getting ATR. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Zion. And now we're good to go. Let's zoom in a little tiny bit here. It looks pretty good. Now, I don't know why the GPS is incapable of following a simple magenta line with a constant wind. But again, like I said, I'm trying to be patient. I've had a rough weekend trying to get these things to work. And you'll see what I mean when you watch next week's videos as well. I'm going to swing down this way. It looks like we have to come down. Yeah, I can just activate that. Activate. Oh, don't you dare. Told ya. Notice it expects my new position to be behind where I started, not where I actually was. Oh boy. So we're going to go right here. I'm going to press activate leg. Activate leg. Notice it's still pointing backwards. I do not know what this leg thinks it is. I'm going to go ahead this leg. That one's still backwards. Let's try this leg. Fixed it. Oh my gosh. All right, we fixed it. Yes, Simon's absolutely right on that. I always forget about gliders because I never think in terms of, oh, I have to go back down now. But that's definitely something worth checking out as well. Prop plane ATR. ATR, no. There is an ATR airplane. That's a pretty cool one. It's a regional turboprop, I believe, if I recall correctly. All right, it's time to make our way down. Looks like we're looking at 11 minutes, so we need to give up 12,000 feet, the local altitude. I'll check for everybody real fast. That's going to be an altitude of 601 feet above ground level, which means we need to get down to 1,600 feet, which means to mean 2,000 above that. Let's call it 3,200 feet is going to be our target altitude here. I think Microsoft Flight Simulator is terrified of my magenta line of safety. You know, it's really funny. The first time in the real world, I got to fly an airplane with a GPS in it. Like, keep in mind, all of my flying in the real world never had a GPS ever. I didn't even have a tablet that told you where to go. Everything was with basically a piece of paper and a compass, if you want to think about it Boy Scout style. When I first had it, I remember dialing in like the things just like you did in the Flight Simulator and pressing the enter just like you do in the Flight Sim. And then you had the little magenta line of safety. And I started following that magenta line. All of a sudden, like for the first time in my flight, I was bored. Like I'm never bored flying an airplane because there's too much to do. Obviously right now I'm letting the autopilot get it. But in the real world, you put it on GPS, and especially if you have an automatic pilot, you just click the switch and off it goes kind of a thing. It's completely different. Nibiru uses the Logitech 3D Pro. I've gone through 3 of those. I always end up with a right-hand bias on the rudder on those because, you know, I hold the stick in my right hand. So I ended up buying something a little more expensive. I actually went with the T16000 for ages in order to kind of alleviate some of that pressure. All right, let's see how everybody else is doing behind us real quick. I think we're doing pretty well here. Like I said, relatively high altitude here. All right, Steve, enjoy. All right, so we kind of, like I said, continue making our way. We're going to come swinging in here. Zoom in just a teeny tiny bit. Absolutely. No, it's good. It's good. Like I say, flight simming, there's so many things you can do with it. And, you know, at the end of the day, someone's going to add a mod, which is going to add surface-to-air missiles that'll come whacking us up here. Somebody's eventually going to add a mod that's going to give us like a P-52 or something like that, which I'm sure we're going to be cruising around in quite a bit. Oh, isn't the autopilot? Oh, actually, Nibiru. It's funny you say that because the first time I was exposed to autopilot was actually this year in the real world. And autopilots in the real world are all so much better than they are in the simulator. They're perfect to describe it in another way. But the autopilot, yeah, it's more for taking the work out of the flight. So like in the real world, what I would be doing is I'd be going through my notebook, which I think I kept it down. Where's my notebook? Oh, I lost my notebook. In my notebook, what I'd be doing is going through the approach flight that I'd be needing to take right in a few minutes. I'd be dialing my frequencies. I'd be talking on the radio. I'd be talking to my co-pilot. I'd be running through a mental checklist of asking everything I need to do for the approach. Like all those things I do in the real world take a long time to do. Like right now, I can just go. The autopilot allows me to be able to concentrate completely on those while the plane safely gets to where they're going. Zaihan asked, what do I prefer? It depends on what I'm doing. If I have places to be, and it's just a long, straight flight, I love autopilot because, like I said, it gives me time to go get out my tablet. I can start checking what the frequencies are going to be. I can check what the winds are going to be. I can check everything I need to know about traffic. Again, in the real world, the traffic is extreme, and it's a little dangerous. And in this world, yeah, we have some traffic, but it's all behind me, so I don't have to worry about it. We'd be constantly doing that. So let's the autopilot do it. But if I'm in the middle of the woods somewhere and I'm only like 1,000 feet off the ground, I need to be concentrating outside. I'm always have my hands on the controls. The other thing too with autopilot is I never actually let go of the actual side of controller because you never know if something goes wrong. Like if a piece of metal in the autopilot, by the way, the autopilot works by tightening a little screw. It's actually kind of terrifying if you've actually looked how they hold onto your ailerons. It's not cool. But when you actually look at the mechanism that pulls it, if that were to fail, you have to be able to grab the airplane from the plane and be able to adjust it instantly. You can't wait around. Or if you see somebody in a TBM flying right at you, or in a couple weeks it's going to be an F-18 flying right at you, I've got to be able to grab the controls and get the heck out of here. So that's why they put this handy dandy button to disconnect literally on the stick you'd be hanging on to. So it is wonderful, but be careful with that. Let's see here. Which one? I never got boring in the GIV. Yeah, of course. Because that airplane's a little bit more involved to fly. But like I said, in the real world, it totally depends on what you're trying to do. Like right now, this is a pretty relaxing flight. I could go away, take a walk, come back, and then come in and fly this plane some more. No problem. Speaking of which, we need to fly this plane. We're too close. All right, going down. All right, come down to about 40%. Now, the interesting thing is I do a lot of combat flight simulators. In combat flight simulators, the autopilots tend to be very limited. So you have to kind of learn to work around that. And going back to Simon's comment earlier about him pretending to be the Mosquito, kind of being our Pathfinder aircraft, those aircraft are so difficult to fly. Whoop, got passed again. Where's my flash? I'm going to flash my lights at him. Jerk. Have I ever flown airlines aircraft? As I hand, the best I can say is that I have flown a simulator for it. I've never flown an actual one. All I have to say is they're much better in the simulator, the fancy simulators, than they are in simulators, because the controls have more throw, they have more weight to them. The aircraft is so much smoother in like the really, really professional simulators than you'll ever experience inside, something like Microsoft. I don't care what you say, you can never get it that good. Even in VR, even with the right controllers, it's just not the same thing. So it's just one of those things. Whoop, got just passed by a Spitfire there. Nice. Actually going to give it a couple RPM here. Oop, that's way too much. Gotta love the turboprops. This is when Antonio says, no, the turboprop is indestructible. Go ahead and push the throttle all the way forward. Nibiru asks, have I ever flown Star Citizen? I have flown Star Citizen. It's cool, but this is going to sound weird. It's too much game for me. I really, really enjoy space sims. I mean, some of my favorite games of all time, things like Free Space 2, were wonderful, wonderful games. But, like, you could pick them up and put them down. Things like Elite Dangerous or even Star Citizen, you run into that kind of scenario where there's a lot going on. And I think that sometimes that kind of, I don't know, I don't find this much fun sometimes. All right, we're going to push the throttle all the way forward. Now, one thing I've been tempted to do is over in X-Plane Land, they released the 747 Classic. Man, have I been tempted to check that one out. I'm going to come make our way down here. We'll go pick up some of that speed that we just gave up. Work on the image calibration of the F-35 simulator. All right, Rick, I got a question for you on the F-35 then, if it's okay with you. So I was talking to a buddy who basically, helps coordinate things at air shows, and he's hanging out with all the different people who does the F-35s. They actually fly them for stunts and stuff like that. Notice, by the way, my aircraft is not correctly capturing the altitude I assigned it. So one of the things that came up is I was asking him, well, how good is the radar in the F-35? And he says, well, it's good enough that when we're flying in the air show, we actually can detect every single car on the highway leading up to the air show as we rip around because of how sophisticated the air-to-ground radar is. Now, I don't know if you can speak to that effect, Rick, but are they really that good? Because that fascinates me that something could be that amazing. Nice going, Helter Skelter. I love it. All right, going to come in for an ILS approach here. Now, when I say it's been broken, it's been so broken, I'm going to be blown away if this works. That's the safest thing for me to say. Anyway, let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit. We're more than close enough to get ourselves down to the ground. Pop my head up, pulse mode out, leave the landing lights on. Time to do our before landing checks. I'm just going to confirm real fast here. We're on the correct fuel tank. We should be on the left fuel tank, which we are. We have plenty of fuel for landing. Differential pressure looks good. The cabin pressure boost is on. Inertial separator comes on. MFD is all set. That looks good. That looks good. Ah, bummer. That's too bad, because I understand it's ridiculous. Oh, I should probably turn my oxygen on. I need to breathe. Oh, I can deploy some oxygen. Bummer. Oh, well. All right, let's land this plane, and I'll kind of finish this one. Like I said, we had a chance to kind of see a neat little national heritage site. We got to fly around the Chinese countryside. I still say that there was a giant asteroid that hit the ground and everything just solidified after getting kicked around. That's just what it looks like. And for those of you folks who've never flown in China, China is a huge country. There are so many things to see here. You've got the coast, you've got the mountains, you've got the desert, you've got, all the way the massive plains. Think back in the early days of Mongolia. It's all here, which makes it really slick. I had a feeling that warning light was going to pop on. Yeah, Rick, I did hear about that. In the F-35s, you wear a helmet where if I went like this, I could see the ground through the airplane. So if I looked back up, I'm looking back outside the window. It's probably the slickest little helmet-mounted display I've ever heard of. All right, let's go ahead and put this thing down on the ground. Go ahead and bring my power back up. The great thing about a TBM is when you pull the throttle back, the plane stops. It's great. Bring our power back up to standard. Just checking to make sure everything looks okay. No surprises, no surprises, no surprises. Looks pretty good. We're going to let the aircraft switch to CDI mode on its own. I'll arm the approach. You can see I'm already actually quite a bit above below glide slope right here, which doesn't surprise me at all. Stick my head out the window here. Look at how populous it gets once you get out of the mountains. That's just incredible. Oh, no. Oh, nope. Vera was absolutely correct on that one. We did not visit the Great Wall. Uh-oh. Seems the water does the same thing the mountains do around here, too. Rick, have you flown the 787? I work on the HUG system. Yes, I have flown. In the simulator, I have. I've never flown it in the real world. It seems like an amazing plane. I remember watching the live video when they first flew the plane, like the first flight, and the guy's landing was literally so perfect. It was like, it hurt my feelings. It was just one of those where it was just incredible. And also, it validates how effective flight simulation can be because they did all of their testing on flight simulators and all their training before they actually flew the plane for the first time, which I just find amazing. All right, here we go. Time to do our approach. We're going to come down. I believe it was at 3,400 feet. It's going to be our altitude here. So I'm actually going to start working my way down. I'm a little too high. Looks good. Coming on down, you can see I'm already significantly above my cloud path here. Gotta start slowing down. All right, looks good, looks good. We're actually going to decrease our selected altitude a little bit here. Sweet. All right, now we just got to put this thing down on the ground. Get a good look at the little runway we're going to be coming around on. It's going to be right over here. Good time to go ahead and dial in our minimum altitudes and all that stuff. Gotcha, Rick. No, I hate to say it, that in the real world, because I fly small planes, general aviation, little jockeys, all my landing skill comes from my ability to perceive where I am relative to the ground and how fast I'm going by basically hearing the sounds the plane makes. Doing one of these things, the entire approach, is it gets a little, as you could probably imagine. But again, that's part of what flying is all about. Now, if you had a heads-up display that you could just see right on the screen exactly how fast you're going, and it shows a little diagram of the runway, and there's a little diagram here which tells you your angle of attack, that completely changes the way you land an airplane. And you're starting to see those now in the really, really expensive things like the Cirrus Vision and stuff like that. But again, you're not going to see that on a TBM for a while. That'll be a third-party add-on. All right, there's our lovely runway. Like I said, we're going to become spinning around here, and we're going to be doing a quick ILS approach. You can see the localizer has switched to localizer 2, which I find very interesting, because I would assume we were supposed to be on localizer 1 for that one. But I'm not going to argue with the Microsoft Flight Simulator gods. They and I do not agree this week. Not to say it's a bad product. They do a wonderful job. And they actually featured one of my videos back in September, which got me 1,000 viewers, which was crazy. Speaking of 1,000 viewers, we're 1,000 shy of 20,000. That's, oh my God, that melts my brain. I don't know what we would do if we hit 20,000 viewers. Like, I feel like we'd have to do something special, but what is special for us? I mean, we've done so many cool things together. Maybe we'll do like a really, really long live stream or something to celebrate crushing 1,000 subscribers, rather. I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever get to it. I'm kind of excited. Swing around, and I need just a little bit of power. We're starting to get a little low. I'm actually going to level off here. Arm the approach again. And we're going to start that turn. Simon, it looks like you're taking your turn to final there. I'll come follow you. I'm number 2 to land. 200 is feeling pretty good. There's my turn, too. Now, the great thing about... This is so cool. Now, one of the great things about the accuracy of electronics is all of us could literally queue up and all have the same button pressed right now, and we all take the same turn. Oh, that's so much fun. David Matthews, other than the band, that's actually not a bad idea. I just don't know how I could take you all on a flight. There's a few of you now. 20,000 people, I can only fit 2 usually. Nice, and thanks, Rick. One of the things that you probably notice is I never ask anybody for subscriptions or likes. That's their choice. You know how to YouTube. All right, here we go.
Landing gear, 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 landing gear.
She's just so insistent. I still love the TBM. This is the first plane I flew in as far as our live streams go, it'll probably be the last plane I fly into. And then one of these days, there we go. We got to find somebody who's got one of these and fly this. I like that. Nibiru's theory of dropping candy out the window. Not a bad idea. Not a bad idea at all. I got to get under $1.40 here so I don't bend something. Come on. Down to $1.40. Now, in the real world, there's so much air traffic control action that when we do stuff like this, it's like constant back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then they finally give you the okay. And it's like, then you get on the ground and then you got to taxi to the correct landing spot. It's, oh my gosh, it's so much work. I was hoping to do VATSIM, but like I said, this entire airspace right now is under actual personal control. This didn't feel like the day to do that. I felt like that was going to be a little too stressful for us. All right, let's go ahead and do Giphy. So Giphy is pretty straightforward. We're going to make sure our gear is down, our inertial separator is on, our flaps are down. They're not quite down all the way. We'll do that in a second. And our yaw damper is off. That is the Y in Giphy. You want to make sure you shut that off because if something goes wrong, it's just going to make it that much more difficult to control the plane on your approach here. Latharog's got himself a pretty well set up here. But man, what a flight today. We've covered a really, really long distance. And it's going to be neat because eventually we're going to have an F-18 to do this with. And when we have the F-18, we can cover real distances. And that'll be super fun because you could do it like Mach 1.8 or something like that, 10 feet off the ground. Or we can recreate the movie Top Gun just because we can. Yes, I'm hoping we hit, like I said, if we can hit 20,000, I will be, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'll do with myself. Maybe Microsoft will release a new flight simulator. All right, throttle back. Let's get ready for landing. I just love how it gets quiet for half a second. In the real plane, by the way, it gets so quiet, it's disturbing. You pull that throttle back, you could literally sneak up on somebody. All right, come on. Come on. Thank you. Is that a 787? I got passed? How do you... Well, of course I got passed in a 787. That just makes sense. That's a Hawk. You're allowed to just pass me. This is great. Again, the reason I continue doing this is because of everyone's wonderful support here. I think this is just so much fun and so relaxing, and it's just a nice thing to do every once in a while. I love exploring the world. I love flying airplanes, even though the autopilot really should get paid, not me. And I also love the fact that, everybody gets to join in with these kind of things, and I continue to do so as long as I can. The original Top Gun wasn't flown with lawn darts. No, it wasn't. You're a little low, Reaper. Finger on the trigger. All right, here we go. And 200 above, landing. That was not 200 above. Well. Man, that's awesome. I love that. All right. Seems that way. All right, let's make our way over to the thing. We'll get our pictures. This is a great time, of course, to ask is, anybody have a couple different things I'm going to ask as we're kind of taxiing out here. First of all, is there any place anybody would like us to fly? We've flown quite around the world at this point, so it'd be nice to see some other spots. Next thing I'd like to ask as well is, does anybody have any questions on anything flight sim related or something I might be able to answer? And the final question I'd like to ask is, there any specific videos you folks would like to see? Because I'm always looking for new ideas. Like I said, next week I had a bunch of really good videos. Microsoft blew up on me, so I ended up doing about... you'll see what I mean when you see them. All right, now apparently somebody's here. My signal's on, but he won't move. Excuse me. No, I'm short enough. I can just get underneath him. Let's sneak underneath this guy. Yeah, you gotta like that TBM. That thing just lands itself. Not as good as an airplane with a cruise prop, though. Those things land themselves, but that's besides the point. How you doing there? Oh, hey, Simon, it's your thing. I don't know. That's just what I perceived it as. All right, I'm gonna go sneak over here and we'll go get our lovely little picture. Oh, hit the brakes. Oh. Tap it a couple times. Go sneak over here and hit the brakes. We're here. What a crew, what a crew, what a crew. By the bow and TCC. We don't want to forget about Anthony here. The Wosenjan. I think we have to do Korea at some point. Here's somebody sneaking up on my left here. Nice. What a great turnout. And again, thanks everybody for coming by tonight. This has been super duper fun. Very relaxing. I wish we had a little bit more active, scary flying, but at the same time, as we got to see some really, really pretty scenery today. We also got to fly in a part of the world that I feel like we don't get to fly in enough, because it's an amazing country. There's so many people here. There's so many different neat spots to land. Their general aviation is very, very different from our general aviation. Again, by my saying our, I'm saying the United States, but it's still super duper cool to be able to go ahead and see these things. All right, I have taken our picture. Wait, let's get Anthony ready. Or Antonio, I'm sorry, not Anthony. Anthony. All right, let's go ahead and do some wanton destruction. We got to make the Microsoft Flight Simulator people happy. All right, go ahead and point this way. I'll drop a couple notches of flaps. That sim is the real world ATC, right? Like real world worlds, and you can talk live ATC. Nibiru, it is kind of. Basically, it's a bunch of volunteers who play the part of air traffic controllers, but they use real world procedures and everything along those lines. We were going to fly with that today, but like I said, my Chinese is not great, so I figured that might not be the greatest idea. That's fine. No problem, Rick. No problem. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I see this really cool lake that looks like a pair of pants. Like you can see like the left side of his foot, and I'm going to go ahead and head over and go swimming real fast here. And go bring my nose this way a little bit. Bring up those landing gear. Speed up time. I love how fast you can get time to go here. And we should be here. Oop, let's see. Where is it? Oh, that's it? All right, fair enough. Oh, that's not good. What do you mean? Ah! All right, folks, have a wonderful afternoon. We'll see you again in 2 weeks. Enjoy.